Associate Professor in Department of Physiology at Sree Balaji Medical College. I am a physiologist and research scientist with the experience of guiding the medical students for ICMR funding projects. I have 9 years of teaching experience and 8 international journals and national journals publications. So with this introduction, I am going to the topic for today's session, that is blood pressure. So these are my learning objectives. So at the end of this session, everyone should be able to define blood pressure and its normal values and list the factors affecting the blood pressure and the physiological variations which causes the change in the blood pressure, and you should be able to describe the mechanism of regulation of blood pressure at the end about clinical aspect, especially the hypertension and its pathophysiology. So what is this blood pressure means? So the blood pressure is defined as the lateral pressure exerted by the moving column of the blood against the unit area of the vessel wall. So this is when the blood is pumped out of the ventricles into the aorta, it causes the pressure changes in the arterial wall. That pressure only we record as a blood pressure. So blood pressure is determined by the cardiac output and peripheral resistance. So what is the normal blood pressure? Millimeter of mercury in systolic and in diastolic 80 millimeter of mercury. So what is this systolic and diastolic means? So systolic blood pressure means the maximum pressure exerted on the walls of the blood vessels by the blood during the cardiac systole. That means when during the ventricular contraction. So whenever the ventricles contracts, blood is pumped into the aorta, so that is recorded as the maximum pressure for the systolic blood pressure. And what is the normal range in adult is, it is 100 to 140 millimeter of mercury. So this is decided by the stroke volume, force of contraction of the ventricular muscle and the aortic compliance. So what is this diastolic blood pressure? So diastolic blood pressure means minimum pressure. So systolic is maximum pressure, diastolic is the minimum pressure exerted on the walls of the blood vessels by the moving column of blood during the ventricular diastole. That means whenever the ventricular muscles are relaxed, there won't be any blood pumped into the aorta. So that is, the pressure will be very less. So that is recorded as the diastolic blood pressure. So the normal range in adult for diastolic blood pressure is 70 to 90 millimeter of mercury. So this is decided by vascular tone as well as the heart rate. So other than diastolic blood pressure and systolic blood pressure, we should know what is pulse pressure as well as mean arterial pressure. So the pulse pressure is the difference between systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. So it should be within the range of 20 to 50 millimeter of mercury. Mainly it depends on the stroke volume and the arterial compliance. So next is mean arterial pressure. So this is the average pressure calculated during one cardiac cycle. So that is, mean arterial pressure is equal to diastolic blood pressure plus 1/3 of the pulse pressure. So it should be falling between the range of 75 to 105 millimeter of mercury. So this is decided by the tissue perfusion in the body. So we all move on to the factors which will be influencing the blood pressure. So arterial blood pressure, as I told, it is decided by the cardiac output and the peripheral resistance. So the factors which all affect the cardiac output and the factors which all affects the peripheral resistance will affect the blood pressure. So what are the factors will affect the cardiac output? So stroke volume, heart rate, circulating blood volume, myocardial contractility. So these are the factors which will affect the cardiac output. So whenever there is increased stroke volume, blood pressure also increases. Whenever there is increase in heart rate, blood pressure also increases. Whenever there is force of myocardial contractility increases, blood pressure also increases by increasing the cardiac output. So the peripheral resistance. So the factors which will affect the peripheral resistance are radius of the vessel lumen, elasticity of the vessel wall, length of the vessels, velocity of the blood flow and viscosity of the blood. So whenever the blood viscosity increases, the blood pressure also increases by thickening of the blood in the vessels. And whenever the length of the blood vessel increases, so according to the peripheral tissues where it reaches, the blood pressure also decreases. Elasticity of the vessel wall. Whenever the vessels are more elastic, so if the compliance of the vessel is good, so the peripheral resistance is less and blood pressure also will be less. So in turn this is also decides the blood pressure in a person's. So this changes can be within the physiological range. So this can be for few reasons. It can increase or decrease. So these factors are considered as physiological variations which can cause blood pressure. So the physiological variation whenever it can occur is during the age. So in young age the blood pressure will be little high and the older adults will be having the less blood pressure when the person is normal without any comorbidities. So that age alters the blood pressure. Then gender. In female the blood pressure will be always little less compared to the male persons. And the posture. In the sitting posture blood pressure will be less compared to the standing posture. And exercise. So post exercise, immediately on exercise there will be increase in blood pressure and again it will be brought back to normal. That is why it is considered as physiological variations. And during sleep, so all the cellular metabolism will be at rest. So during sleep blood pressure also will be little less compared to the awakeful cycle. And then temperature, so in the cold climate blood pressure will be little less and in the temperature, higher temperature and hot climates blood pressure will be little high. Then the emotions, when the person is very happy the blood pressure will be little less compared to the person who is having very anger or stressed. So the stress also very importantly plays role in increasing the blood pressure. So this is all considered as physiological variation when it is brought back to normal. So how this is brought back to normal? So that is done by regulation of blood pressure. In our body we have three different mechanisms which helps in regulating the blood pressure. One is short-term regulation and long-term regulation, then the intermediate regulation. What is short-term regulation? So it is the acute and fast-acting system. So whenever there is increase in blood pressure, immediately within few seconds it gets reverted the blood pressure, means that is the short-term regulation. So the mechanism which is involved in short-term regulation are baroreceptor reflex, chemoreceptor reflex and Cushing's reflex. Long-term regulation means it takes days to years to bring back the blood pressure to the normal range. So it is the slow acting system and it acts sustainedly for the days to years. So this is done by fluid shift mechanism, renin-angiotensin mechanism and thirst mechanism. And the intermediate one, so that is between the short term and long term. So that is it gets activated few minutes to few hours. So that is done by the capillary fluid shift mechanism, stress relaxation mechanism. So we will see one by one. So I told about the short term regulation, that is done by the baroreceptor, chemoreceptors. So mainly baroreceptors are the mechanoreceptors, chemoreceptors are the chemical receptors. So baroreceptors will respond to the mechanical changes which takes place in the blood vessels and the chemoreceptors will act when the chemical concentration of the blood changes. So where these receptors are located? Baroreceptors are located in the arch of aorta and chemoreceptors are located in the carotid sinuses. So next is the Cushing's reflex. So this is again the short term regulation, but it will be getting activated only the blood pressure falling even below the 40 millimeter of mercury in systolic blood pressure. So how it acts? So whenever there is decrease in blood pressure, so the cerebral blood flow also decreases when it goes beyond 40 millimeter of mercury. So there will be cerebral hypoxia and hypercapnia which stimulates the vasomotor centers. So in turn which will be increasing the sympathetic nervous system activity. So whenever there is sympathetic activation, sympathetic nervous system activation, there will be increase in heart rate, increase in cardiac output. By in the blood vessels it increases the vasoconstriction. So finally whenever there is increase in heart rate and cardiac output, blood pressure also increases. So this is how it reverts the blood pressure when it goes less than 40 millimeter of mercury by activating the Cushing's reflex. Then coming to the long term regulation, we have renal body fluid shift mechanism and renal angiotensin mechanism. So this is mainly involves the kidneys to activate the blood pressure mechanism to regulate it. So how it is involves? So whenever there is increased arterial blood pressure, so the blood flow to the kidneys also increases and pressure in the blood capillaries also increases. So in the glomerular filtration this shows the difference. So increase in GFR causes increased urine formation, so more fluid will be excreted out, so blood volume decreases and blood pressure also decreases. So that is the renal body fluid shift mechanism. What is this renin-angiotensin mechanism? It acts in two ways. One is renin-angiotensin vasoconstriction mechanism, another one is renin-angiotensin aldosterone mechanism. So here whenever there is increased renal blood flow or decreased renal blood flow, it will be affecting the renal renin secretion. So for example, if the blood flow is decreases, so renin is released more in the juxtaglomerular apparatus. In turn, it activates the angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So this angiotensin is the vasoconstrictor, act on the blood vessels and causes the vasoconstriction, which increases the blood pressure. But in renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, this angiotensin 2 activates the aldosterone, which is secreted from the adrenal cortex, and it causes the increased reabsorption of sodium. So sodium concentration increases in the blood, as well as wherever the sodium concentration increases, the fluid also moves towards the side. So blood volume increases and blood pressure also increases. So coming to the intermediate system, we have two things. One is capillary fluid shift mechanism and stress relaxation. So capillary fluid shift is mainly involves the hydrostatic pressure. So whenever there is increase in blood pressure, there will be increase in blood flow, which causes increase in capillary hydrostatic pressure. So wherever the hydrostatic pressure is more, the fluid will be moving from increased pressure to the lower pressure. So fluid will be moving from the capillary to the interstitial space. So that is the space between the cells. So the fluid is shifted from the extracellular compartment. So blood flow decreases and the blood volume also decreases, in turn blood pressure also decreases. So that is the fluid capillary shift mechanism. Next is stress relaxation mechanism. Whenever there is increase in blood pressure, the blood vessels getting stretched. So this causes the stress relaxation mechanism by increasing the capacity of the blood vessel. So the blood pressure will be exerted on the walls will be decreases, so blood pressure also decreases. So that is about the intermediate mechanism, which are the three mechanisms involved in the regulation of blood pressure. So that is short term regulation, long term regulation, intermediate mechanism. So if this is disturbed, this mechanism is not functioning properly, then it can result in changes in the blood pressure for a chronic period if the change is taking place. That is called as hypertension. So what is this hypertension? Whenever there is sustained elevation of blood pressure for a longer period, then this is called hypertension. So here the systolic BP is more than 140 millimeter of mercury and diastolic BP will be more than 90 millimeter of mercury. So this hypertension is classified in two. One is primary or essential hypertension and another one is secondary hypertension. So essential hypertension, the reasons can be because of the salt reabsorption or fluid retention in the body, or the sympathetic activity is increased because of lifestyle modification. So this all causes the essential hypertension. Secondary hypertension, it will be because of the primary cause will be some other, either it because of the renal artery diseases or renal dysfunction or endothelial dysfunction, which can lead to secondary hypertension. What is the pathophysiology? Mainly this hypertension is because of whenever there is sympathetic overactivity in the person, or the renal angiotensin aldosterone system gets activated more, or whenever there is renal dysfunction or renal endothelial dysfunction takes place. So this is the pathophysiology of the hypertension. So whenever this is retained or the pathophysiology is corrected, hypertension can be treated. So with this, I'll end this today's session. So you can refer for the further reading. So we'll see you in another interesting session. Thank you.